Okay, there we go. Oh, is this camera working? Oh, the camera's not working. All right, 1 second, friends. There it is. Okay, perfect. All right. So, hello everyone. Welcome to class 2 of semester 2. By the way, this is awesome and remarkable. We actually have every single person here from last semester. We've been going through all the campuses, meeting with everybody about, did everyone move to second semester? And we are, us and another group are at 100% keep going rates. Other people, because of scheduling, because I'm telling you, there's always like a scheduling conflict. Right when you go to second semester, you got to figure it out. Does it work? Does it not? And sometimes, it doesn't work. And then people have to go virtual, and it's like not the quintessential kind of arrangement. We did it, and I'm very happy. And Sheila, I'm so happy that you're okay. I know I already told you, and we were all worried for you, and everything's great.
My sister told me.
Yes, we were thinking of you very much. And so cool. So we have a lot to talk about today. We're starting lesson 2, which is Tija. I'll go more into that in a minute, but we're going to watch a video. By the way, how we're going to do second semester is always going to be in this format. We're going to start with a workshop. We're going to do the lesson, and then we're going to end with the workshop, okay? And as you know, the lessons are going to be one part, which is the upper system of the upper worlds, and then a second part, which is a more practical part, okay? Today is kind of the intro to all of that, and you'll see that we have some of that structure, but next week, for sure, we jump into the 4 phases of direct light, Kabbalah and health, and we go through the whole thing like that, okay? All right, so let's watch a clip. Let's center our intentions through the clip. Sorry that the thing's behind you guys. Tell me how you think about this arrangement. Feel free to move, shuffle, wiggle. It's okay.
What if we turn the table
Sideways.
that way? So when you lecture, you're lecturing up there, then nobody would be behind.
I didn't draw here.
Or you can move the TV. Oh, no, you're right. Okay, well then there's no answer.
It's a hard one. I know. We've been trying to figure out the right configuration for centuries.
Can you draw on that?
I can, but what ends up happening, and before we only had, that was our only whiteboard. But then the drawings end up getting too big, too hard to see, especially in this semester. We draw a lot. Okay, here we go.
Maybe we can do a diagonal.
Road. 4 introductions to the Book of Zohar. We have the Book of Zohar for All that we published, and we need to go over these 4 introductions in order to really know and receive the approach and get the key to the Book of Zohar for All. So we're starting now from the preface to the Wisdom of Kabbalah, one of the introductions to the Book of Zohar. Also with Rabash, when I came to him, I wasn't told anything. They didn't tell me anything. They said, if you want to study, sit. I sat down, and my teacher opened the book and started to read and explain. That's it. Without questions. If there was something to ask a little bit of questions, but also I understood in the beginning that I had nothing to ask here. So I kind of like nodded with my head as if I understand, even though, of course, I didn't understand a thing, not a word. But later at home, I could barely read the text until I remembered it by heart. And that's how I started to study. Therefore, what am I trying to say? Actually, the study of the wisdom of Kabbalah starts with the preface to the wisdom of Kabbalah. That's how it was. Today, it could be from there's none else besides him. Okay, let's start learning the wisdom of Kabbalah. Let's go.
What's funny and interesting about this is that you're like, I've already been here a semester. Aren't we already learning the wisdom of Kabbalah? And this is the pure science stuff. We're going to get into the whole upper system. This is the book. This is one of the introductions to the book of Zohar, or one of the commentaries and books that the Baal HaSulam wrote. As you heard in the video, he wrote 4 actually books. The one that he's most known for is the commentary on the book of Zohar, where he goes through the entire system of creation. This one, Tikha, is specific to the study of the 10 Sefirot and the upper worlds. So this one's specific of the ladder itself, and I'm going to draw it out for you guys during this class, so you'll see it. But let's start with the workshop, because we're going to talk about exactly what we're going to be covering, which are the 5 worlds, the upper worlds. So let's start with this. So this is item 155. Remember, I would always bring you back to item 155. This is the one, okay? This is on page 373 for those of you that can't see the TV. And by the way, thank you, Marilyn, for coming early, and Sheila for helping to set up the room and make the coffee. You don't know how much you're helping me, so thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I didn't do it.
I know, but you were here, so. All right, page 373. 373.
Okay.
All right, let's read. 155. Let's start with that first paragraph. Feli, you haven't been here with us for a little while, so why don't you get us warmed up? This is the first paragraph.
Therefore, we must ask, why then did the Kabbalists obligate each person to study the wisdom of Kabbalah? Indeed, there is a great thing in it, worthy of being publicized. There is a wonderful, invaluable remedy to those who engage in the wisdom of Kabbalah. Although they do not understand what they are learning, through the yearning and the great desire to understand what they are learning, they awaken upon themselves the lights that surround themselves.
This means that every person from Israel is guaranteed to finally attain all the wonderful attainments that the Creator had contemplated in the thought of creation to delight every creature.
So let's stop there and the first question. So question 1. If to reveal the Creator, all we need is to connect, why does Baal HaSulam say that we need to yearn to understand what we study? So if in order to reveal the Creator, all we need is to connect between us, why does Baal HaSulam say, in what we just read, that we need to yearn to understand what we study?
Because, I don't know if this is right, but I think because if we yearn to understand what we study, I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought. I'll get it back.
Do you want us to come back to you, Sheila? Would that be easier for you? Is this workshop?
Yeah.
It'll come back.
Obviously, to connect is automatic because we're in the class and we're already connecting. But we have to yearn it in order to understand what we're going through. We have to read and study. You need to want to do that, otherwise we're not going to understand it. So you really have to want it.
Yeah, and I think if we yearn, we get what they keep saying, that is the strong light, and which is what you get first or something. So it's like a step.
I think yearning to understand is how we connect.
How?
How we connect.
Oh,
Absolutely. I believe that as well. I believe that the desire itself is, in a way, the connection that we need to put ourselves with that light.
I think we need to yearn first, because if we're not yearning to understand, probably it means that we're not in the spiritual level to be acquiring type of knowledge that the Kabbalah would be providing. Maybe.
Well, I'm thinking also about the time you have to go through the root of the words, like journey, what I mean by journey. But what I thought is to have conscious effort on that, because we most of the time we're doing unconsciously and we're doing like automatically. It's a reaction, and then we have a time to think and to say deeply in us if this is good or if this is bad for me. We just react.
I think that by yearning, we're strengthening our intention. And we need that intention to continue to be strong about studying. Because there's so many distractions in our world that tries to tempt us away from getting into Kabbalah. So we have to have that yearning to strengthen our intentions. That's what I think.
So when we study the wisdom of Kabbalah, how do we study it? Why are we studying it? And what's the purpose of it? And what makes it beneficial, a beneficial study when we do it? And what is like the right intention or the right way that we should approach the study? And so Pticha, specifically what we're about to study and go into this semester, you really can't understand it or feel it. You can't understand it with your mind. So it's important that we maintain this kind of inner request for a changing intention, that I may be able to feel what the Kabbalists are writing about and what we're discussing. It is allowed to use the mind in the study of the wisdom of Kabbalah, but only to the extent that it brings upon a feeling, so that one doesn't just necessarily know it or memorize it with his head, but rather he begins to feel it and sense what is being discussed. But at the same time, we may not be able to feel this, but the yearning, the desire to want to approach what we're going to study and understand that there's a light that's coming, that's correcting us. That light is what's bringing us to be able to sense or feel what it is that we're discussing. And so let's not try to materialize it as we go through all of this with our minds, but rather let's aim and yearn for that feeling. So the next question. Baal HaSulam tells us in the preface to the Wisdom of Kabbalah about our upper roots, the created being's origin. Where are we found inside the entire process he's about to unfold before us? Baal HaSulam tells us in the preface to the Wisdom of Kabbalah about our upper roots, the created being's origin. Where are we found inside the entire process he's about to unfold before us?
The point of the heart, right? I think that's where we are. Point of the heart. Your turn.
Can't you smell it?
Yeah, I don't know.
We're in the world of Asiya, and we're trying to connect and solidify the connection. That's where we are right now.
I'm not sure I understand the question entirely. But as far as I can tell, we're in a very early stage of our development. We're in this process. But yeah, not really sure.
I'm with you. I'm not sure I understand it either, but if I do understand it, I'm going with Sheila's answer.
I'm not sure exactly where we're at either, but I gather that we're at the lowest level. I think it's called Malkut. And we're basically learning to invert our nature from the desire to receive to the desire to bestow. And that's how we start attaining the spiritual world. I'm guessing at this stage right now we've attained 0.
In the process, I think we are found, if I understood the question, which I'm not sure, where the very tip of the branches of that big tree, where the creator is the roots, or the spiritual world is the roots, we would be very tip of the branches, I guess.
Because I guess one problem is we think that we are separate from this other course. And since we have now our intention, my purpose is different now. So my attitude has to change based on that intention. So that's the way I will attract the light and reflect.
Yeah, I think we do have to just concentrate on our intention, and the rest will take care of itself. If our intention is strong enough, then the rest will take care of itself.
So, what we're going to study, it's Baba Sulam telling us about the process of creation of a desire, and so throughout this portion of it, you're going to ask yourself, well, where am I in this picture? And if the Kabbalists tell us that we're not in this upper system, that we're not in these upper worlds that we're drawing and discussing, then what's the point in us discussing them or going over them? Well, I'll tell you this much. The Kabbalists tell us that we are not in that upper system. We are not in it yet. But at the same time, we must approach it in a way where we want to kind of still understand what is that upper system. Because as we're drawing, and we're going to begin drawing the 4 phases of direct light, you're going to ask yourself, where am I in this? Am I in this stage? Am I in this phase? As we start drawing the upper system and the upper worlds, where am I in all of this? You're going to hear a lot of things that are going to sound things maybe you felt before, and it's good that you have all these sensations, but at the same time, it's important because you are going to constantly be saying, where am I in this thing? Where am I in this whole process? But it's important for us to understand that we must learn it first as a big picture. We must see the whole system, the whole upper worlds. We'll draw it out. We'll explain how the whole spiritual world works. But at the same time, then later, after you have the whole picture, then you can begin to see the causes and consequences, the places, where are we, and how all of this is arranged. But it's important for us to approach it in that way first. Kind of like how children learn. We explain a broad topic, and then we kind of come closer into where are we in this whole thing. So because constantly this will surface in you as we're going over this in the next few lessons. You're going to be wondering, because you will associate sensations or feelings that you had previously with what I'm discussing. So it's just approach it at the beginning as we're going through it as a big picture item, like understand the whole thing, and then we'll see where we're at. Okay? All right. So let's jump into this. Please turn to page 565. Item 1. So let's go back to the beginning. 565. Let's go back to the beginning, because we're going to start at the fundamentals and describe what part of creation we're going to be talking about, and then we'll go from there. So let's read the first paragraph. Actually, not the first paragraph. The thought of creation. There it is. Yeah, the thought of creation and the 4 phases of direct light. Let's read this a little bit. And let's read the whole section 1, all the way to 2.
Rabbi Anania, son of Akashia, says, the Creator wished to cleanse Israel, and he has given to them plain Torah and mitzvot, commandments, as it is written. The Lord was pleased with his righteousness, sake to make the teaching great and glorious. In my first it is known that cleansing is derived from the Hebrew word purify. It is our sage say the myths, but were only for the purification of Israel. Bereshit Rabbah, Parashat 34. We must understand this cleansing which we achieve through Torah and mitzvot. And what is the abuse? Stainless, coarseness, will to receive. Willing acts, which we should cleanse using Torah and mitzvot. Since we have already discussed in my book, and in Masgrot, and in the study of the 10 Sefirot, I should briefly reiterate that the thought of creation was to delight the creatures in accordance with his abundant generosity. For this reason, a great desire and craving to receive his abundance was imprinting in the souls. Sure.
This is so because the will to receive is the clay or the vessel, or the measure of pleasure and the abundance. Since the measure and strength of the will to receive the abundance precisely corresponds to the measure of pleasure and delight in the abundance, and they are so connected that they are indivisible, except in what they relate to. The pleasure is related to the abundance, and the great desire to receive the abundance is related to the receiving creature.
These two necessarily extend from the Creator and necessarily come in the thought of creation. However, they should be divided in the above-mentioned manner. The abundance comes from his essence, extending existence from existence, and the will to receive included, there is the root of creatures. This means that it is the root of intention.
Initiation.
Oh, you're right. Initiation, sorry. That is emergence, existence from absence, since there is certainly no form of will to receive in his essence.
Hence, it is considered that the above-mentioned will to receive is the whole substance of creation, from beginning to end. Thus, all the creatures, all the innumerable instances and conducts that have appeared and that will are but measures and various denominations of the will to receive. All that exists in those creatures, that is, all that is received in the will to receive imprinted in them, extends from his essence, existence from existence. It is not at all a new creation, since it is not new at all. Rather, it extends from his endlessness, existence from existence.
So do we remember what the purpose of creation was?
To create a desire for itself.
To bestow
Delight.
unbounded pleasure and abundance.
Does anyone want to add anything? They created a will to receive. I'm trying to type all together. Create a creature, fill him with unbounded delight and pleasure. Would anyone like to add anything else?
To show his godliness to his creators,
To his creatures.
to his
Yeah.
This is the joy of the creator.
Yeah, to bestow joy unto him. All around it. It's the thing itself, actually. You all are discussing it precisely. And so, the thought of creation, when we were first created, the thought of creation was, as you said, was to create a creature and to fill him with unbounded delight and pleasure. And when that thought came, then it all occurred. And so for us, we immediately, because we're humans, and maybe some of us are better at this than others, we think that the human was the created being. We think that that the man, the human person that is walking around is the creation itself. But what was created was a desire, a will to receive pleasure that was created opposite to him. The plants want to receive pleasure, the dog does, the rock does. So he created an entire will to receive pleasure, because the purpose of creating a creature, one creature, was for it to be able to accept and enjoy all of the abundance that he wanted to give to it. And then there was a shattering, and we descended into a place called this world. And what occurred was that we began to separate ourselves more and more. This desire to receive pleasure, this desire that was created, began to separate itself more and more from the Creator, all the way through a system of upper worlds that were created. So there was more and more concealment that was made, more and more layers of not being able to, let's say, opposite of form that was created from Creator to its creature. And as a result, there was this formation of worlds that occurred. But why the need for concealment? Why the need for us to not be able to perceive the Creator anymore? Because if we were at one point created, and it wasn't, again, it's not the human, it's everything. If everything was in perfection and in harmony and in exact balance with Creator, then what is the need now for it to not exist in that symbiosis, in that relationship again? So there was a need for the concealment. So what occurred is that it was a requirement that when the Creator created the creature, it was a requirement that he created an independent creature. Something independent of himself, even though they're intertwined, but yet he wanted it to be this desire. He wanted it to be independent and not completely self-sufficient off of him, without this conscious kind of collaboration. So when you create a creature or a desire, you want it to sustain itself. That it can create also. It can do like you. It can do all the functionalities that you have, but independent of itself. And so what occurred is that in order to do that, he had to separate himself from this creation. Because if it knew that there was a Creator, then he would always turn to him, and he would never be independent, because he knows that there's this Creator, and he's all abundant, and he has all the pleasure and all the goodness and everything. And he would be maybe like a child that cannot stop suckling from the mother. It'll never grow up. It'll just stay constantly on the teat of the mother. And you want the boy or the girl to grow, to develop, become its own person. And so we see that the the creator started to conceal itself. And it started to separate itself. And also, we're saying it as if it was like today it's a little bit, and then tomorrow it's another little bit. This is all something that happened all when the spark of creation occurred. Boom, there was a big bang, formation of world, everything swirling, all these things occurred, creation of desire, and what took place from that. And so as a result, there was a creation of these 5 upper worlds. And there's a need for this concealment, a separation, because it's more and more layers of not being connected with this upper force. As a result, that eventually we got to a place where we are 100% disconnected from this upper force. In our perception, of course, right? We can argue, we're already smart students of Kabbalah, we can flip this thing. Well, what about the perception of reality that says that we are already in adhesion with him? And of course, you can read articles that tell us that we are already there. But for us, in this moment, so that we can separate the two things, we need to understand that there was a complete separation. As far as East is from the West, we are separated from Creator. And then we transcended down into this world. And then there was a cascading that occurred, as you know, from above downwards. And we talk about that, and we discussed it before, that that as a result of this increased separation from Creator, there was kind of a path that was created in the snow as we descended. Reshimot, spiritual Reshimot that are inside of us. Okay? And so as a result, we understand that this is the process of how we descended. And all that we discussed in semester 1 has been from the aspect of kind of from below, let's say in the sense of from above downwards. We've been saying this is what occurred, that there was Creator and everything kind of cascaded, and now we're here. And then we talked about now we're going to go back up, right? And so all the books that we're going to read now are actually, this introduction is specifically going to discuss this process from above downwards. So what we're going to be discussing is precisely from here to here, and this is what semester 2 is. It's exactly the ladder itself. But we're going to be approaching it from above downwards, from what occurred at the beginning, and then what brought it down to the creation of this world. So that whole process, we're not going to focus on this world. We're not going to focus on this part of the ladder, on how are we going to get back up. We're going to focus on us understanding the beginning and the whole descent process to this world. Because at the beginning, something very fundamental occurred, which is when the desire was created. And that's why next week we're going to go into the 4 phases of direct light. What happened when the desire first was created and it had its first interaction with the light. And then what did the light make it do at that stage? Then it forced it to do something else. And then it kind of went through this process of kind of inverting itself many times to be able to kind of create the whole system of the upper worlds that exists today. Okay? And so if you understand also that during this process, because we already know that then we understand the history of this world and the development of the desire in this world, and we understand already that there's then a process that we'll undergo later. After we understand from above downwards, we're going to go back through, okay, now that we understand what this path in the snow looks like and what was made the first time it was there, how can we now traverse it upwards? So it's important that we understand it from above downwards, and that's how these books are written. They're written from the perspective of that descent that occurred. Specifically, Pticha. Other books discuss the process of below upwards, like Zohar. So, but it's important that we start the fundamentals in this way. And so there's some definitions that we need to resurface, some old ones, and I'm going to give you a few new ones, so that we're on the basis of exact conversation as we're going through this. So the light, and you guys can put your chair like kind of at an angle, like sideways like this. It's okay.
I think that if we separate both of them, what you guys said on this side, watching that way, when we have workshop, you guys just turn around.
So man, do that. The chips will fall through the Yeah, you can sit like this. Yeah, you don't have to look at me. You can just, I'm not the important thing.
For the moment.
Yeah, sure. So look, light. Light is described, and you'll see that these definitions that we have will begin to evolve. We start with what it was when we were in semester 1, and then you'll see that there's additions that we can add to these definition. So the light, everything the creature receives. So the light is everything the creature receives. Because now we understand that there's none else besides him. So good, bad, pleasure, sadness, thoughts, anything, all of it. And it's not just you personally, it's the trees, the everything. Light is everything that the created being receives. That's described as light. Okay, so what's a kli? It's a vessel. It's the desire to receive in the emanated being. So there's a desire to receive in the emanated being. I want. What was created wants. And thus, there's a kli in it. And it's all made up of klis, everything. All vessels to receive. Olam, world, it comes from the word alem, which is concealment of the upper light. So we can't perceive. It's not just like I can't see creator. It's I don't associate that all of it is coming from him. So everything that I'm receiving, I don't see it as coming from a source. I see it as if I'm independent, in the sense that I go to Burger King and buy the Whopper, I put it in my mouth, I chose to go and get the pleasure. I don't see that there was an upper system that arranged everything for me to receive both the hunger, both the thought, as well as the enjoyment of the burger itself, or the chips I mean. It all comes from a source, but it's concealed from me. Now again, I'm using terms as if we're discussing a person in this world, just for association. But from here forward, we gotta separate ourselves from that. We gotta look at it in a way of, what is a world? When I tell you the world of Adam Kadmon, when I say it's the world of Adam Kadmon, you have to know that it's a place where there's concealment of the upper light, X percentage or amount of concealment of the upper light. And when you get to this world of Adam Kadmon, you're at that X percentage of concealment of the upper light. Okay? It'll be different for Buriah, Yetzirah, Asiyah, and all the other worlds we'll be discussing. Okay? But we just need to know that Olam, world, means concealment of the upper light. And you'll see that soon I will try to not use examples from this world, but sometimes it's a must. I'll use just the ones the Kabbalists wrote about in these books that maybe you haven't read yet. Okay? So Bo-Re. Bo-U-Re. Come and see. This is the degree one must reach. So we say, the degree that I must reach. So I must reach a degree. I want to reveal creator. When I get there, I say that it was Bo-Re. Bo-Re, the creator, got me there. Because I came and I see and I felt. Right after this, I'll tell you why we discuss it this way. But for now, let's just understand what Bo-Re is. Okay, so we have the Torah. We have Torah, which is the light that reforms. Anytime we're studying Torah, it's the light that reforms. It's not just this physical book, the Pentateuch, the 5 books of Moses, yada yada. We're discussing that when we're studying Torah, we're studying the light that reforms. That does, of course, come from those writings from the Kabbalists and yearning and wanting to feel what those people that actually attain these things did, and you're wanting to feel it also. Mitzvot, remember we last week we had Torah and mitzvot. It's the correction of the desires. So we said it was good deeds, precepts and commandments. But it's actually, the mitzvot is the correction of the desires. Okay, so I perform good deeds against my own willingness, and as a result, I'm correcting my desires. Okay, we'll go more into detail in the future with this. Zak is pureness. So in closeness to the attributes in the light. And then Av is distant in attributes from the light. So remember, we said that in the spiritual world, we measure remoteness and closeness not with inches or feet, but rather in similarities of properties. So if I'm more like Zach, then I'm closer to the attributes in the light. But if I'm like Av, I'm further away or more distant from the attributes of the light. And in turn, I'm coarser or heavier. I'm thicker. My will to receive is thicker. It's more coarse. You know, coarse, like salt. It's more jagged and edgy. But if I'm more like Zach, I'm more like pure, more refined, more rounded, softer, more like something that doesn't hurt.
Specific.
Hmm?
Specific.
Specific.
Like if you want something specific versus something general.
This is more just to describe kind of the two ranges of distance we'll be using. So if I'm more closer to, like if I'm higher in the system of creation, then, or let's not say if I'm, let's do it like this. If the worlds that are higher in the system of creation are more Zak, and the lower worlds are more Av. And this is kind of that measurement of purer or coarser. Okay? And we're going to begin to see that this is how we will measure, this is our measuring stick in the upper system. It's more of like, am I similar to these qualities or am I further away from these properties? Not necessarily am I like, and that's how we measure remoteness and closeness. Not necessarily in other ways, but we'll always measure it in this kind of fashion. Okay?
In terms of frequency, we have a higher frequency, we are close to a pure state.
Say that again?
If we have more on like getting close, then the vibration will be high. And if you go down here, the vibration will be slow.
Yeah, well, the Wisdom of Kabbalah doesn't necessarily discuss frequencies or vibrations, but like any wave, you understand that it's a wave.
Yeah.
Okay, and so it's meaning that there will be periods of Zak and there'll be periods of Av. If you want to look at it this way, the vibration or something like this, the Kabbalists only discuss it in the way they talk about how quickly you go through states. How quickly do I go from, let's say, from a state of Zak to a state of Av? This up and down creates like a movement. How quickly can I move through these states? And this maybe causes like a vibration. But if we look at the world, and I know I used it as examples with the radio, saying that let's say Creator is vibrating at 100 points 100. How do we even measure megahertz or gigahertz or hertz? Okay, but we're operating at 0% hertz. It's we don't discuss it like this, but I can also tell you, I can use examples like weight or pounds or any other kind of measuring so that you can get the idea of the fact that there's a separation between us. And depending on how everyone learns, we can use all kinds of things. But frequencies and vibrations, it's not in the vibration. Because if not, we can just go and make a really nice machine that vibrates precisely at the tune of the one atom that Creator is, and then we can forget this whole process if it's just a vibration. But ultimately, what we're discussing is the inner changes that a person goes through, inner sensations, inner feelings, and so a person, let's say Creator has qualities of love, and I have qualities of the opposite. What's the opposite of love?
Hate.
Hate, fear.
Okay. Hate, fear, sure. Confusion, separation, anger, whatever it is, right? So this is kind of like the two units that are used in the upper system to measure closeness and remoteness. At the same time, then you throw in, because you'll see that we'll throw in like, if you're purer because you're higher, the worlds that are higher are purer because they're closer to this. And so they're closer to the qualities of love. The lower worlds are closer to separation, disconnection, because as a result, you'll see this kind of these are like the outcomes of it. But really, it's separation and division versus complete unity. Yeah. All right, so let's keep going. Let's read the next one. We're gonna have questions here in a minute. I know I took a couple. So on page 566, we'll start number 2. And where did we leave off? I think Karen, you're up.
Page 562.
As we have said, the will to receive is innately included in the plot of creation with all its denominations, along with the great abundance he had planned to delight them and impart to them. And know that these are the ore, which is light, and the key that we discern in the upper world. They necessarily come tied together and cascade together degree by degree. And the extent to which the degrees descend from the light of his face and depart from him is the extent of the materialization of the will to receive contained in the abundance.
We could also state the opposite, to the extent that the will to receive in the abundance of materializes. We could also state the opposite, to the extent that the will to receive in the abundance materializes, it descends degree by degree to the lowest of all places. For the will to receive is fully materialized. This place is called the world of Asiya. The will to receive is considered man's body, and the abundance one receives is considered the measure of vitality in that body.
It is similar in other creatures in this world. Thus, the only difference between the world is that as long as the will to receive included in his abundance is not fully materialized, it is regarded as being in the spiritual world, above this world. And once the will to receive is fully materialized, it is regarded as being in this world.
So it's important also to understand as we begin studying the upper system is that the Kli and the light come together in the sense that you cannot, when you're discussing a thing and when we're actually going to go in and read all about it, we're not talking about the creator himself. What we're talking about is the creator in relation to the vessel. Meaning, when we're discussing all of this, we're talking about the light and the vessel and precisely how they interact. We're not talking about, when we talk about creator, as we're going through this, we're not talking about atzmuto, his essence. We're not describing him himself. What we're describing is the Kli's relation to the creator at that moment. And then it changes to another relation. And thus, we say that the creator is different because I'm experiencing the creator in a different way because of the difference in the Kli. It's like Rabbi Azusa said. He said that every day I have a new creator, meaning that every day I'm relating differently. I'm changing. I'm relating differently to the upper system. And thus, as a result, my Kli, my vessel, is also adapting and changing. Thus, creator changes its form in the sense that it adapts to the way that the Kli is able to receive, perceive, or not, or the lack of being able to. So what we need to understand is, as we're reading everything in this next semester, is that everything is talking about how the Kli and the light are interacting in that moment, not the creator himself and his essence. God forbid we should discuss atzmuto, his essence, meaning that's something that we cannot, because we can't attain it, we cannot discuss it, meaning that we can only talk about it from the level of the attainment or the feeling, which is why we don't just, there's many other philosophies that just discuss the topics themselves and maybe we discuss what is happening and all these different forms of maybe philosophizing about what is happening in the spiritual. But in the wisdom of Kabbalah, we only discuss that in which we attain, meaning that we only talk about when the Kli arrives and its interaction with the light, and that point when they meet. And thus there's a feeling or a sensation that we can actually document. Okay? And so this is why it's important for us to understand that, and I will remind you that this is how the whole wisdom is laid out before us. We're not talking about kind of, when we're discussing these things, it will seem that way, as if we're talking about something that's very far out there. But it's important for us to, as we're learning it, to know that these were documented by the Kabbalists as they were attaining them, and thus we can be able to discuss them. And there will come a time, of course, where you will also attain and feel. But for now, we're not talking about some philosophical image of a creator himself, but all the stages of development of the desire, the kli, and how it's interacted with the light, the upper force at that moment, and thus giving a name. Creator. We call creator this. Okay? And then you'll see that's why through the process of creation, as we discuss this whole upper world, we will have different variables for creator. Creator is like this, which is more the sensation of this way, but then it's like that, and then like this, and it seems as if creator is changing. Creator's not changing. It's one light that is unchanging. But it's us who changes. The desire changes in relation to it, and thus it's sensed, and it seems as if it's a variable. But it's us who's changing in relation to it. And so that's why there's no creator without a creature. There's no creator without a creature. It's only in relation to the creature itself. Okay? We're not going to discuss him. We're going to discuss creator and creature together, always. That's how all these books are written. Okay? All right. Let's do a couple questions, because I know we just did some fundamental stuff about the upper world.
Is this course that's coming to the top, and the one that's coming, that you say the point where they meet is in the Masach?
Correct. Yeah, we'll discuss next week. Actually, 2 lessons from now, we discuss Masach. Next week is the Kli itself at the beginning, at the very beginning. Thought of creation, desire to receive appears. Okay? The exact form to receive that abundance. Now what happens after that? Next stage, next stage, next stage, next stage. And then as a result, I'll walk you through the creation of the desire. And then there comes a point where there's a Masach, the desire acquires a Masach, and then what happens after that? And I'll walk you through the entire process. But adding the Masach is already 2 classes from now, because it's something that occurs later. Because a Masach is a right intention, right? It means there's something independent already from the desire. It's not just a full bucket that's just getting water and never ending water, 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 water. Eventually it puts a lid on the water, says, hey, I want to be independent. And then as a result of adding the lid, how much water can I take and can enter? And then that's already the Masach.
So I have a question. So the purpose of Kabbalah is basically to invert our desire from desire to receive to the desire to bestow. And by doing that, we acquire the essence, or so to speak, of the creator. But if the creator is unknowable and unattainable, then we're not necessarily trying to become the creator. We're trying to just receive his essence. I guess that's kind of one.
Yeah, when we attain creator, what are we attaining? Are we attaining him in his full glory, and with your eyes you see everything that's before you? We receive his qualities. We receive his attributes. And as a result of acquiring and reclothing yourself with this upper form, then now you can perceive the upper. But always in relation to the extent that you've managed to correct or to be able to properly receive that abundance. And as a result, you acquire his qualities, meaning you acquire bestower. And you begin to be more like him in that sense. You're more closer, like you take his form. He clothes in you.
You become more Zach.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's everything, then why does it read to cleanse Israel?
Who is Israel?
Jacob.
Is it a land? Is it a people? Is it a bloodline? Is it a location? We understand that Israel, the word Israel, comes from Yashar El, which is straight to him, meaning it's those that have the attribute or the quality, or rather the inclination to want to reveal Creator. They feel as if there's something else that they don't have. They're not fulfilling their purpose of creation because you were designed and created to fulfill this. But yet, even though we went through this whole process in this world and we forgot why we were created, there's something inside of you, a Reshimo, that won't let that go away, and it wants to pull you back to it. So as a result, we call those people that have that inclination, that you could be from France, you could be from Australia, you could be black, white, Chinese, doesn't matter. Asian, I should say, or from the nation of China, because I mixed races and ethnicity. But anyways, people with points in the hearts, people that want to actually reveal this upper system, that's who we call the nation of Israel. So in all the books, when it says the nation of Israel, it's not talking about those, like where your citizenship is and where you were born or where you live, but rather your natural inclination inside of you. And it's the same when we hear the word Jews in the books. When we talk about Jews, we're not talking about, a Hasidic Jew who has the hats and the hair and everything, but rather people that are with this inclination of revealing Creator. They want to, they're that part of the human body, the one creation that actually wants to perform this action. It wants to reveal Creator.
Didn't always mean that, though. When we first wrote it, it was pretty much for the Jewish faith, wasn't it?
Jews, the word Jew?
Actually, back in 1400, I don't think they offered it to the Chinese, the people of the Chinese world.
They, of course, today it's a label. Of course, it's a specific type of people that came from a certain lineage, and then even within themselves, they also divide themselves in different ways, like the Kohen, the Levites, different measurements also of sanctity, or more or less. But in essence, what the wisdom of Kabbalah tells us is that these books, all of them that are written, they're written with this definition, that if we're talking about Israel, or even if you see Jew in here, it's talking about people that have that inclination, like the real Jew. A real Jew, like from what the Kabbalists meant when you read the Zohar, and also when you read like the books of Moses and all those, it's talking about someone with that inclination. Yes, there was a historical period where it was pretty much everybody, all those people. So they said, okay, you're all Jews. But then later, and I have to see when the lesson is, when there was the destruction of the first temple, and then later the destruction of the second temple, there was kind of a certain mixing that occurred where those Jews ended up mixing in the mixed multitude in the rest of the world. So, and all of a sudden, like I moved to Chile, and then this guy who was back then doing this with me moved to Australia, and then we kind of mixed with the whole world. And there's a specific reason why this occurred, and we go over it into that lesson. But ultimately, then now we're seeing that inclination was inside of us this whole time. So after we've constantly kind of all mixed now with the whole world, now we see that it's the whole thing is kind of rising up again. And then all of a sudden you get a guy from Nicaragua who says, I don't know, I feel like my roots are from Israel. He goes, yeah, but you grew up in the jungle somewhere. He goes, no, but I'm telling you, I had this feeling like there's something there. Okay, well, go find out. He goes to Israel. He's walking around, well, I don't look like these people, and I really don't associate with them, and I don't agree with their religion. And then someone tells him, oh, you should, what you're talking about is the wisdom of Kabbalah. You should go look for that. And then he goes and this is why I have this feeling like I'm part of something eternal. I've been searching my whole life. And this is the story of one of my buddies, actually, who's a doctor from there. And he didn't know why. He just, one day he woke up and he's like, maybe it's the Jews. He's like the furthest thing from it. Like, he grew up in the jungle. Like, the Jews, I need to go look them up, And then he goes, and then he goes and he goes, and so guy tells me, he goes, you don't want to be a Jew. He says, you're not they won't let you come and study to be Jewish. They said, I think what you're really looking for is the wisdom of Kabbalah. And he goes, well, what's that? He goes, well, go to this building over there, talk with those guys. And like this, and another guy from Mexico. And, you see it. So where's these people coming from? They have this root, a root inside of their soul that like pulls them towards to complete the purpose of creation. Okay?
Now, how can we feel or measure ourselves to know where we are?
Good question. Later, we will be able to once we acquire Masach. Prior to that, it's all fair and games. You can imagine wherever you're at, wherever you want to be. But there will be a moment where you actually discover where that place is. And it's not right away. There's a process that you have to undergo and certain things that need to occur that we'll talk about during the third and fourth semesters. But ultimately, one will be able to identify his location eventually.
Last week we were talking about free will, and I know this is going to sound like an oversimplification, but it's fair to say that we don't have free will, but it's mostly just forces.
That's an excellent segue to our next section, which is right after this, which precisely describes this. Any other questions before we move on to that, or you guys want to keep going? Yeah.
I mean, I kind of have a lot of questions.
You have more questions?
Yeah.
All right, come on. Let's bookmark that one because it's we're going to talk about it right now, like right after this.
Okay, because it's kind of, I mean, given that I get an answer for that, because I was reading, is it the Kli, right? Is that broken? Like the vessel, is it broken?
Is it because you read about the shattered thing?
I think so.
Yeah. So
I read this on the blog.
No, it's good. So they say, oh, you're a will to receive. You're created opposite to creator. You are completely opposite to him. You're thinking that everything that we're reading about is about you and all the revelations that occurred, how egoistic you are, that you're like opposite to creator. And then and this was last night. Our teacher was talking about this, and he says, no, it's not. You're just like a spark. You're just like a little piece of the whole will to receive that was created, the whole Kli that was created. It's funny because in the end of this, I don't want to give any spoilers, but in the end, you're going to see how this whole thing is one Kli. It's like, but where am I? Who am I? How do I fit into this thing? Am I the guy with this point in the heart? Or, and it ends up that you later will see where we are in the shattered Kli because it ended up shattering, but we're all one. There's only one creation, one creature that was created. But I see a lot of people. What do you mean? I'm a creature because I'm one, and I identify myself with a personality and some sort of kind of existence, I'm alive, right? And I can only assume that you are also because you're talking to me. So we kind of already identify ourselves as something separate that exists separate from everyone else because I have a different thought pattern than you do. But later we end up seeing how we're really there's only one creation. And we're all part of this shattered vessel that we're trying to rebuild.
So how can I...
before you jump in there, you had to know.
Yeah, because I was thinking, the forces, like one of the forces was the spark. Another force, the spark.
The spark, yeah.
The spark. And spiritual genes. And that's like remembering kind of.
Yeah, the Reshimo.
The Reshimo.
Yeah.
And I've heard of people remembering past lives or stuff like that. That doesn't happen to me at all. But I kind of wonder if that's something that is part of the development that we should be seeking. But another question that I have about that is kind of like your friend from Nicaragua, that he thought there was something within him. And this makes me think that in a way, it's kind of like we have two personalities. One that's like the one that you see, like the 25-year-old naive guy, and then there's like another personality within that's like trying to search for the point in the heart or whatever. So is that kind of how?
That's awesome.
Oh,
So that's very interesting, actually, because this is a beautiful question. Actually, it's So who am I? Where am I? Am I one? Like I'll describe your example. Am I this guy who's a little shy, who's this way, and he's smart, and he's naturally sensitive, and this and that, and he thinks a lot, and he likes to eat at Taco Bell, and he's into this. Is that who I am? Is this the entirety of me? And what is this thing? Where's my soul? Like, where am I? Someone else? Like, and then if I acquire these qualities of this kind of like destiny that I have, that I will reveal Creator, what's going to happen to me? Will I stop eating Taco Bell? Like, where am I going to go? Right? And so this is this kind of struggle that is actually the whole of the path, where a person wants to be special. He wants to be different. He wants to identify himself as something separate. He wants to believe that he creates such a world for himself that this life isn't just meaningless and it's pointless. So he values the tacos and what he studies and what he does every day, and as if this is life, as if this personality that he is actually what life is all about. And you live in this way, and you see the whole world exists like that. But in reality, we're created for another purpose. And so you still will be 25, soon you'll be 26, and you'll continue, and then you'll still eat Taco Bell, and at the same time you're going to acquire godliness, in the sense that in your vessels you will acquire His essence, meaning that it's not in any other cleat, it's in your cleat where this will occur. Specifically created with your qualities, you have you're a piece of this one soul, this one creation. So you're very special and very needed, and we can't disregard anybody. Just because maybe some were created stronger, wiser, smarter. Now we value those guys, but the weak and the not so much. And so we see that we don't measure in accordance to our ability to provide to society, with all of our special skills, but rather we do it because we see that everyone and all of us are a very necessary part of this one creation. And so you will acquire it in your vessels. You'll be like you, and you won't change. Even though you undergo a correction process, you will still be the way you are, because that's how you're designed. You won't now all of a sudden start glowing. You guys have seen like shows, Goku, Dragon Ball. Like, this guy's like I have godliness. And he's gleaming with this like energy, and it's radiating off of you. And you walk in the room, and everyone like feels it, and the place shakes with every step that you take, because you have these godliness qualities. Spoiler alert: this whole room is filled with this abundance. The whole world is, and we're constantly in it, but none of us perceive it. So, and the fact that you now doesn't make you any different than everybody else. Quite the opposite, actually. You'll see that you're more internal. You'll get quieter. You'll be even more more timid, more not wanting to because you're working with the forces. So you're not going to say, "Look at me." You'll be like him. You'll be like him, which is a hidden, and you'll be actually like a zero, and you'll exist and like he exists in everything, but not showing up or visible. Let's put it like that.
So we can start concealing ourselves.
I'm a master. It's like I hide everywhere. Don't worry, we'll get to all that stuff. We'll get to all that. Mirna, you look like you had a question.
No.
No? Oh, you're quiet today. You're already in concealment, I see. Okay, should we continue? Any other questions? Oh, you had something. Come on.
Well, I can start with myself, because that's what I know. So if I start feeling my presence, my energy, my desire, my way of it. So I started feeling that. But then I'm trying to make that correction. When you want another person to connect, how that process goes. because in the spiritual sense.
One, there's no coercion in spirituality, meaning that you can only focus on yourself. You can only correct yourself. And as much as you would like to impart or give, it's impossible, actually. You cannot, and a person cannot enter another person. A person can't see anything about this person. He's a world within a world, in the sense that he's like, or she's like a whole world, because the way she perceives it, she literally pretty much has a whole world inside of her. And so to think that you could somehow enter or view or know something about another, impossible. Everything that you see, or a judge has only his eyes to see, and so he sees everything from what the form that I perceive with my eyes. Thus, I create an image in my mind of this thing. If I see them as great, they're great before me. If I see them as low, they're low before me. And always kind of in this two ranges of above or below. And you'll see, we talk about it in third and fourth semester about the interworkings between people. But you cannot coerce anybody. You cannot convince them of anything, even your own children. You can teach them, but eventually they perform their own path. And with what was given to them, with the regime that they have, and their own thing. And that's why you guys, how did you find this wisdom? You found it yourself. It found you, actually. And that's what we're going to talk about now in a second. But I didn't go to your house and knock on your door and try to convince you of anything. You were searching for this. And so it brought you here. That's why you can't, it's only for a person who has already these kind of qualities. He's more already on the pure side, or sometimes on the opposite, on the side. Either way, like the frequency, you're close. And so you're closer. And like a magnet, this is how the spiritual world works, because we have similar qualities, you're drawn to us. You come closer. You feel as if this is the place for me. Okay? And so if tomorrow, God forbid, you have some other interests in some other teachings, then, and you associate with them, you'll see that you'll be drawn to that, and now you live in some other place. And one soul shall teach you. You move and you go with what you're interested in. How can you take like your child and you try to give it something complex that you understand, a very complex thing, and you try to give it to her with her age and her degree? It's impossible. You cannot do it. You cannot enter into another person. So you leave everyone. You leave them. Creator is operating.
Because you were talking about the vessel have to be other vessels in order to receive.
Yeah, I know, but luckily we'll talk about it. But look, so then, so now what? We have to go get everybody and bring everybody and explain to them that this is how the upper world. This is the role of the Kabbalist. He's that connecting force. But at the same time, once again, we don't need everybody, just enough. Because everyone else will agree. They're like different types of cells in the body. That they'll just say, "Oh, wow, you guys have love and a good life and everything's beautiful. I don't want to know the details, but I want what you have. So sign me up, because this world sucks." And that's it. I'm telling you, they won't want to come here. They won't want to understand all the books. They don't want to know all that. They're not interested in this. What do they want? Good life. They want to not suffer. That's what we can all agree on that. What do we want? Good life and not to suffer. Okay, so can we do that for everybody? Yeah, you're doing it. Sign me up. No wickedness, but no, you're going to try to exploit me. No, this is bestow. All good, all for you, whatever you want. Love, goodness. Yeah. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Don't do to others that which you hate. Oh, this exists in the world. Look, we have an example of it. Okay, where do I sign? And that's it. We focus on changing us. Don't change others. Leave everybody alone. Don't mess with them, man. Okay. Are we ready to move on? All right, let's go. Okay, so there's a fundamental rule, which is what our friend Jose was just discussing. But before that, we're going to watch a clip. No, we're not. I'm going to come back to this. No, this is at the end. We're not going to watch this clip. I'm going to come right back to it. Okay. The light precedes the Kli. I have the two mixed because the Rav closes it for us. But the light precedes the Kli, meaning that up until now, from this whole thing that we're going to discuss, this whole process that we're going to unveil next week, everything was done by the upper force, meaning he created the desire. He caused something to occur in it, which then caused something else to occur, and then caused something else. So he made this whole process happen. It was his doing. We had nothing to do with it. The vessel had no say in the matter. Okay? And so as a result, we understand that the light precedes the Kli, meaning that the light, the giving, is always present. It's always there, and it precedes the Kli, meaning that the Kli is, or the desire, is something that needs to come afterwards, in the sense that if there's no Kli, there's no fulfillment. If there's no creature, there's no creator, because there must be a place for the fulfillment or the revelation of his godliness. Meaning that the light is always there, it's always present, and it's constantly giving. So much so that it, without your doing, and it's been without your knowing of it, it's been developing you this whole time, from the time you were born till you arrived to this class. It put thoughts in your mind, it did everything, it's doing it for everybody. The light is managing the whole system. And it's been filling you, and you've been receiving everything, all the abundance and everything, all the enjoyment throughout your whole life. He's been governing you this entire time, without your say in the matter. And he did all this. And then, now all of a sudden, you come here, where you come to a point where we're going to start discussing that kind of that freedom of, in the sense of, now the Kli is the thing that needs to be kind of present in order for creator to fulfill it. So that's this whole process of below upwards. But what we need to understand as a result of this, as we're discussing from above downwards, is that it was all the light that did this. Because when we start saying, well, why did creator do this? Why did creator do that? And why did he make platypuses? I don't know. Maybe when we get to him, we'll ask him. Okay? This is how it is. This is how it's arranged. Let's take it as if we're learning a science. We're discussing a very specific thing. And let's not go much into the why, but rather the what. What is this? And what is that? And what? The why, he did it this way. Okay, the light preceded the Kli, meaning that he arranged it this way. He did all the separation. But as a result of us wanting to understand this, now we can understand the why later. Once we go up the ladder, when we get there, we'll ask them. Meaning that when you get there, you'll find out, you'll come and see why this thing occurred. Because now you can see the root level of it. Okay, you can see the cause. Okay, now we just see consequences. All right, but when we get there, we'll ask them. We'll ask them together. When we get there together, we'll see why. Okay. I think that's why Israelis all the time always say, why? It's this thing they do. Why? But they do it to something like happy. Why? Look at this guy. He's so nice. Always asking why. So let's see. Okay. But this is the thing, is that the light, it has to come as a request. And let's not forget that it has to be a request. This is why we've been working with you. What's your intention? What do you want? What's your want? What's your desire? If there's no Kli, there's no fulfillment. There's no creator. He can't have a place to reveal himself. So you must proceed. You must ask. You must desire. You must want. Okay, if I'm designed that way, that I was created as a desire to receive pleasure. Okay, so what do you want pleasure for? You want pleasure for that hamburger? Yeah? Okay, have it. No one's going to take it away from you. But do you have a greater desire? I want to reveal him. I want to understand these books. I want to make sense out of this whole world and my life and everything. I want. So you have to have a desire. Meaning that this whole process from below upwards now is from the level of the creatures. Meaning that now the desire is the thing that's going to activate the upper system. It's the thing itself that's going to go. So that's why we have to create the intention. We have to have the desire. But you must ask. Okay, you have to have a wanting. You see the baby. I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And it gets this. Like this. Wow. Okay. You get the fulfillment of your desire. But we're now old and we're sophisticated. We ask kindly, please, and thank you very much. But still, we don't actually, we don't maybe demand enough for what we want. And again, this upper system is a very static system that's unchanging, that it's like a machine or like a calculator. Once the right clears there, instant fulfillment. Next, and it's like it moves along the thing. It's an upper system. There's no personalities involved. There's no judgment or like reasoning or like negotiations. But please, I tried really hard. If it's not exact, if it's not the precise amount, there is no fulfillment. Meaning that everything must occur in a specific scientific methodical way. Okay, and this is how all the books are written. Okay, I'm telling you, but doesn't the Creator have mercy on us? No, no one gets shortcuts. No one gets bonus points or freebies or also you get a special, because you're new, you say, well, I just got here, so, and I'm very nice with everyone. Maybe I should get a discount on the price and the work that I must do in order for this thing to occur. Say, there's no promotional price on spirituality. You must do these things in order for this to occur, because it's built this way. That's the whole upper system. Okay, so that's why we're going to immediately take out emotions out of this thing. It's not going to be like, but I cried, but I got on my knees. And all that is great. But this upper system works like this, like a machine. You want to find out? Let's do what the Kabbalists say, and then you can come and you can see if it's so. Okay, but up until that, because if not, we can live in these ethical philosophies our whole lives. We can sit here for years, guys, just talk about. But what about this guy? That's got to be bestowal. Look at him. Guys, this is how the upper system works. Let's do this. But again, one must bring desire. One must ask. Okay. All right. Let's read. Let's hear what our teacher has to say about this.
You talked about that we need to do.
Fine, whatever.
You talked about that we need to take with patience all kinds of forms of revelation of the will to receive. Does it mean only inside the group, or also towards everything I see in life, in the world, that doesn't necessarily have to do with the people that are learning here and are efforting, and therefore I need to forgive them? A person who understands that all of creation is a will to receive, and there is nothing to do other than to bring over this will to receive more advanced forms, meaning closer to the light, to the Creator. He never, I don't know how to say it, he never gets mad, he never behaves or resists to the forms that he sees. He accepts it as a condition which is given to him for the work. Yes. Despite the fact that it's not pleasant, it's not nice, you also have such situations in which one who comes to kill you, well, that's fair, but actually our attitude must be towards everyone that's the phenomena of the general will to receive. That's how 7 billion people behave between them, and in such a manner are presented before me by the upper force. Who is the director?
Until we see that Creator is the one who's governing the whole thing, there's nothing else that's involved in this whole thing. You go to Him, He's the one who's governing it, but we see this image, we see that one. All Creator. And let's read something else next. This is, it's in Shamati, it's in the other book, but we'll read it from here. A thought is an upshot of the desire. A person thinks of what he wants and does not think of what he does not want. For example, a person never thinks of his dying day. On the contrary, he will always contemplate his eternity, since this is what he wants. Because one always thinks of what is desirable for him.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So in the psalm, and my cup runneth over, they're talking about the plea.
Yeah, talking about life and pleasure and everything that's coming into it. I know what happened. Mix up the videos. Remember how I said, look, we'll come back to the video? I was like, why wasn't it the video I said? That's because of the other one, because I went backwards. You guys remember now? I'm sure you don't, but I sure do. Let's watch Rob again, and then we'll go back to the thought is enough show.
What is prayer? A request for change in the desire from receiving to bestowal, to disconnect from hatred to connection to love. I remember it was in the Ben Shemen forest. We traveled there with Rabash. And I'm telling him, it's like this and it's like that, and I'm like this and that. He hears and hears. For 10 minutes, I'm like this, from taking out all the bad in me and like this, pouring it out and all anger and everything. Like, and then he says, why didn't you ask? It's something special. This request is really lacking for us. Why didn't you ask? Because we, within our nature, within our ego, we don't come to it. We don't come to ask. It's really lacking. It's something that it doesn't come with us. It doesn't jump up with us in our mind, in our heart. That I need to arrange here the request for correction. And people suffer, are in studies, they are in the path for months and years, and they don't come to the request. It's really, really difficult to remember to ask. It's the most natural thing for a person to ask. Our request isn't just a cry, and it's not that I open Psalms and accordingly say something to him. I have to say it in my words, with my words. I'm using a baby when he starts breaking out with some nice sentence that he wants or something, or just a person who feels bad and wants to use some kind of nice words, like King David said. Do I need to say it like King David? I need to say it like me, meaning from my heart. So the problem is that we don't scrutinize the request, so it will come from the depth of our heart.
That's the goal. So you see, we have to ask. We have to have that clean. We must, because that's how the whole system is built.
Is that related with the pray? Like we ask sometimes in the pray? Or what's the relationship
With prayer?
Yeah.
So there's a long discussion I can go into about like prayer and what it is. And have we ever talked about it? Have we ever talked about prayer? I know like during some of the intro lectures we discussed prayer. Okay, so how does everyone and it's important we talk about it because you're right. What is a request? How do I ask? Is it in the form of a prayer? Do I get on my knees? Like, what is this? Where is this request? And what is a request? So what we understand is this, is that Creator is up here, and we're down here. So all of a sudden, Creator does something to me. But then I send a request up, and I say, hey, Creator, I don't like my situation or that in which you've given me, and so please change it. Please change your attitude towards me, so that because I see that sometimes you do good, sometimes you do bad. I don't like these conditions that I've been given, so please change them. I want $1 million. I want love and fortune. I want maybe I want my kids to be, even in a pure way, I want my kids to be safe. I want them to always have health and wealth. I pray for this, right? So in essence, we lack a certain perception. The perception is that there's none else besides him, and he is good that does good, in the sense that everything that he's doing for us is good, and the benefits are beneficial because everything is good for us. Even the fact that I don't have the $1 million, even if my kid gets sick, all of it is good, okay? Because that's what the Kabbalists tell us. And because he's all loving and bestowing. And so this is how most of the world prays, the model I just gave you. But how does a Kabbalist pray? A Kabbalist prays not that he would change the situation itself, but rather that he would change his perception to be able to view it, that it is all coming from this one source, and that it is all good, and that it is, and that he can see him in what's occurring. And so he doesn't pray for the thing to change itself. He prays for more and more adhesion with Creator. He prays for to reveal him more. He prays for more adhesion, more closeness. And so they even later in semesters 3 and 4, we discussed something about like praying for the friends or something like this. And at the same time, then we're told that that a single prayer, the person, an individual's prayer, is not even heard. They say that it goes up and it kind of hits this like wall here, because up here it's all love, unity, one universe, all interconnected. But you're coming from the degree of an individual, and so your request actually doesn't even have this the same qualities up here.
It's lost in translation.
So it gets shot up and it kind of hits this wall and it never goes in. So then they say, it goes even further, and they say that the prayer of many, a request of many, is what is heard. In the sense that if there's one large request, that it mirrors the same and has the same qualities as the upper, then it's heard. Then it passes this kind of magical barrier that doesn't allow individual prayers to go. Because even the crook at night, he's praying that he's not caught. He's praying that he can maybe steal this diamond so he can maybe feed his family. You see that prayer is like, we're constantly requesting. The whole world is requesting. So the Kabbalists tell us that prayer is, what's my desire? What do I want now? I want to drink water because I'm thirsty. That's your prayer. I want to finish my kitchen so I can have my wife and my children in my home and it's safe and everything's good. That's my prayer. So what is your prayer? What are you desiring? What do you want all the time? And then what is our prayer when we're together? What is that request? What are we asking for? Do we want, because no one's going to take away the fact that you want to drink the water or you want this or that to occur. But when we're here, what is our intention? What are we requesting? What are we asking for? And this request, if done together in a unified fashion, is heard. And so in the sense that that one must ask, one must desire, okay? One must have a request. And at the beginning, we just start with having a request. Is it right? Is it wrong? Who cares? But have a request. Want something. What's your desire? What do you want? And that's, we'll go from there. And then, of course, there's a fulfillment of the desire and all that. Any other questions before we take a break?
I
Yes.
have a question.
Yes.
When the Holocaust was occurring, wasn't that a lot of people with the same intention
Right.
to be free? So then
There's a story.
then what happened?
Yeah, no, you're right. And which is the right prayer and how is it heard? But again, Creator's giving a situation and they're requesting for them to change, for him to change that situation, but that's what's being given. But look, there's a story about Baal Sulam, actually. It's a cinematographic novel. It's called The Kabbalist. It was written by Simeon Vinokur, which is one of like Rob's first students. He's actually in Moscow. He's a top professor for the Moscow University in theater, and he wrote a beautiful screenplay of the story of Bala Sulam. And it turns out that Bala Sulam actually grew up in Poland, and he was there, and he already started to study Kabbalah when he was there, and he knew that the Holocaust was going to occur. And he went to the religious communities and he told them, guys, we need to get out of here. We need to leave. And they told him he was crazy and to get out of here.
And some left.
Some left. Some did go. Some did. But they knew that this was going to occur.
They were the only survivors.
And then, but this is the thing is that, and we can go even further as to why Holocaust occurred, what was the reasoning. And it really boils down to this root that we discussed here, is that the nation of Israel have the solution. You guys have the solution, but you're not fulfilling your role in the sense that you're not providing the rest of your friends, the rest of your one creation with the solution. And Creator wants you to get on with this and to adhere with him, but you're not doing it. You're not moving. So he has to.
Want to change.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy being how I am. What do I need change for? Leave me alone. You know, I have my traditions. I have everything I do. What need do I have for anything else? And of course, I'm chosen. I'm special. All that incurs in it. But ultimately, what we see is that the system itself is compelling them. It's pushing them to perform this action, to give the method of correction to the rest of the body. So much so that it's pressuring them, not just the external system, which is Creator, but at the same time, the internal system, meaning that why is there anti-Semitism in the world? Why did these events occur? Why do we see that it's increasing? And it's precisely because we have the solution, yet we're not providing it. But wait, 5 minutes ago you said that it's people with points in the hearts. It's not the Jews. What's the big deal? They're also, even, you see when we broke down all the nations and we got broken down into tribes and all this stuff, like way old school, back in the day, like around Babylon, right after Babylon, that each of us, there's all the tribes as well as the Jews and everybody, each one has a role in this whole thing, and we're all actually part of the same thing. And there's only like a few that aren't kind of involved in the process. They're kind of another group of the part of the soul that aren't kind of mixed in it, that aren't, they're saying these tribes of Israel, like where are they? Like, and there's all these other people. Don't worry. The point is this, is that we are all in the correction process, some more than others, some more pressured than others, in the sense that why is Creator now with you, pushing you, moving you to learn this, to then in turn ultimately do something with it. Yes, I correct myself, and in turn I correct the whole world, but at the same time, you have a role in the sense that you have to be a light unto the world. That eventually, we'll talk about third, fourth semester, that you don't have to talk to anybody, you don't have to do anything, but just you being in connection with the upper, you become this funnel with the lower. And then later you can find out, you can actually talk about it, there's ways to explain, there's general things you can do to kickstart the system so that we don't need another Holocaust or another, God forbid, another strong situation like this. Even though, what do we see in the world? Tsunami, earthquake, forest fires in California. Well, you know, it's general pressure that we need to get on with this survey. And the Jews, us, have the most kind of critical role, and so that's why we get seemingly kind of a little more push than others.
What's the point? If we had to be separated in order to become a kli, so that there could be something to desire, then if we all correct, it's got to start all over again and burst it all back down again.
We already, this is our let's say this is like our third attempt. We haven't gone through the history, all right, but I talked about the destruction of the first temple, the destruction of the second temple, just to kind of, you can take my word for it. This is like kind of our third go at it, and it's the final go, meaning that we shattered so much that now even those with the qualities of the points of the heart, we mixed with even the the people that don't want this, right? So we're in all the nations now, mixed with all the people, and now we're bringing the whole of creation up to it. Not when we reach Gamar Tikkun, or the end of correction, but on this side, when we reach it all the way up, people here, we then move to the next phases of which we don't know because the Kabbalists haven't arrived there. They're all capping at 125, and so they discuss the third and fourth millennium, which are the next stages of humanity, let's say. But it's all after Gamar Tikkun, after the end of correction, and so nobody knows about it. We don't talk about it. They just know that there's something that is after the final correction, Gamar Tikkun. It's not just like we morph back in with Creator and cease to exist. There's a continuum more.
I wasn't thinking that. I'm saying that the whole point of this downward root thing was the fact that Creator, you're saying it was a noun, Creator, the noun needed to have someone to receive his bestowal, or had to have the kli, the desire. If that's all corrected, and there's no longer the kli of desire, what does Creator, then Creator has nothing to bestow again. So I'm not talking about us, I'm talking about Creator.
Yeah, again, that's Hatzmuto, right? We don't know his intentions or his doings. We just know that what we've been given, which is pretty much everything from 125 down to 0. That's the ladder of decrees that we've been able to document.
But I'm saying, once we get up there, what Creator's back in the same spot that he was when he first shattered us.
At that stage, there's actually a complete creature with complete consciousness, which will operate both independently but also symbiotically with Creator, meaning that the purpose of why he started this whole thing will be fulfilled, meaning that he wanted to create a creature, something completely separate from it, and it acquire him. And so as a result of this, that will complete. And then whenever Geppetto whenever Pinocchio comes to Geppetto, it's like, I'm a real boy. What will happen at that point? We don't know. But ultimately, the purpose of this whole darn thing will occur. Because this whole process and everything was just so that the Creator could create a creature, but not have it just completely suffer from it. They wanted it to be independent, creature, completely its own thing, yet wanting to receive properly all the goodness it wants to give to it.
So if you said universe created us in order to know itself better, or to know itself for the purpose of knowing itself, that would be the same idea. And once we're all back to creation, universe knows itself, and then you can say can move on to the next level.
Again, this is what we don't enter, which is Hatzmuto. It's philosophies in the sense that that we don't know its intentions. We don't know why it did this. We just know that this is how it's designed. And so then that's why when we get there, we'll ask them, right? Why'd you do all this? But up until now, we just know that there's a group of people that have documented this upper system, that they know how it navigates and how it works. And then they wrote all the way up to a certain degree, which is written in the Book of Zohar, which is 125. And they say that that this is how it's done. It's they call it Borei, they call it Creator, and they don't know its intentions. They don't know if it wanted to know itself better or what it wanted to do. They just know that this is what occurred. There was a thought of creation. In the thought to create a creature, there was an explosion. Boom, a big bang. And everything started unfolding and creating. After that, that occurred in this process of the creation of this world, all the way now where some of them were given the ability to see that there's an upper system. They documented it. These are Kabbalists. And now they're telling us that this is where we need to aim ourselves, and that this whole world is imaginary. That this is like a dream. We're living in this world, and it's imaginary. That this world doesn't exist. Everything you see before you does not exist. There's a whole other reality that exists above this one, which is the real reality. But we live here with on our animal degree still, and we are like animals. You see that we're, in nature, the animal wants to be greater than the other animal, and it wants to fight it so that he can be more than the other one. We're still on that animal degree. So because we haven't attained a human degree, we still don't know or understand what's going on up there. And we're playing with all kinds of games down here as if we, like little toys, as if we knew what spirituality was. But really, until we don't acquire this upper system, we're just still on an animal degree with, and that's where all the philosophies and religions are still stuck in. Down here. Okay.
When down here is gone, everybody that doesn't go up is going to be disappearing.
The rapture. No, actually, quite the opposite. Everyone will go, and that's the thing is that even in our speech, we say everyone, and we're worried about that one person out in some place who maybe doesn't know what's going on. We're talking about a system, an upper system that's governing this whole thing. So
Everyone is everything.
exactly, everything will go in the rocks, the trees. It's just this imaginary, illusionary world that was created to simulate something, so that we could come to then the next stage. That this is not the whole thing, guys. You were given a place, a stench that you need to exit, and then this whole reality won't even exist. We won't need cars. We won't need trains. We won't need anything. We will exist above it in a whole nother world of intention.
Unless it's Westworld, then we're in bigger trouble.
All right. Any more questions before we take a quick break?
Take a break to go home, or because it's.
All right. You guys want to just keep going?
Yeah.
Does anyone need to take a super quick break? All right, let's keep going. So,
We're ending at 5.
30. So again, 30 more minutes. So look, a thought is an upshot of the desire. A person thinks of what he wants, and he does not think of what he does not want. For example, a person never thinks of his dying day. On the contrary, he will always contemplate his eternity, since this is what he wants. Thus, one always thinks of what is desirable for him. Okay? So, we're about to start the workshop. This is kind of the intention for the workshop. But again, I'll remind you, and we're going to be, you're getting older now, and so you'll see that more and more or less. I won't play the rules video because now you guys are already seasoned. You know how to do a workshop between you. We don't argue, okay? Nobody's opinion is greater than the other. Go in order, okay? Don't, if Mirna speaks and something she says really connects with me, awesome. Keep it inside of you. Maybe when it comes back around to you, don't jump and interrupt the flow because you're really excited about what's happening. Keep it in a circle. Let's keep it together. Let's listen to each other. Let's really make an effort to exit yourself and really be in what the others are saying. Try to accept their opinion as if Creator is talking. Okay?
I think I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
You got 30 seconds.
Right.
You guys have this is the cure?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I'll go.
good. Yeah, I know. Karen, like, we'll give you 2 minutes. I'll do a dance.
We'll clap.
I knew you needed a break.
Well, I guess I'll go.
Exactly.
It'll be a while.
Let's all
Everyone's gone.
disarrange now.
Yep.
Now that the rebels wanted to leave.
Right.
So you feeling better? I'm happy.
Yes, thank you.
You're looking sharp with that coat. It's beautiful sweater you're wearing.
Oh, thank you. It's warm. That's why I put it on. I'm always cold.
Me too. Oh, no.
Oh, you too?
I thought when I left home earlier that it was cold, and I didn't feel that I was cold. Probably because I had soup. And but when I got here,
Oh, yeah, soup keeps you warm.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have soup when I go home. I like soup. I'm a soup lover in the winter time. Not in the summer.
really, I could eat soup every day. I love it.
No, it's still
hot for soup
in the summers.
I like soup.
But soup is great anytime.
I like it anytime, but mostly in the winter. when I crave it. So my daughter just bought me a carton of soup.
Really?
It came like 6 in the package. She went to Sam's and got.
Very nice.
I like the ramen soups.
There you go. Have you ever had pho?
No.
Like Vietnamese, like
No.
it's pronounced like pho. You haven't had it? Have you had it?
Like with miso? No.
No. This is like it's a new thing. Well, it's probably not new for them. It's old, but around here you'll see that a lot more of these places are opening up.
You know, one of my favorite restaurants is Little Saigon.
Mm.
It's a Vietnamese
Oh, okay.
place
See,
in
so
Colombia.
yeah. Well, like that, they have these soups.
Mhm.
And that's their thing. Amazing. I'm telling you, with the ramen noodles in it, super awesome broth, vegetables, like meat, whatever you want. Best thing you've ever had
I
in your
like the
life.
broth.
And you get to choose the meat because I
You
don't
choose
eat meat
everything.
for pork.
No, you eat it. You choose everything you want. I'm telling you, look it up. It's pho. 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 It's the best. They're popping up everywhere, and they're amazing. And yeah,
Good to know.
yeah, like especially because you said ramen, you like the noodles in the soup. Yeah, you can choose between rice noodles or egg noodles, like
Yeah.
whatever you want.
Okay, noodles and noodles.
Noodles and noodles.
Right.
See, now our prayer is for soup.
Exactly.
So we went from Korean to let's all pray for soup.
Yes. Because baby, it's cold outside.
There's not a
And
cup
then
here
it's
that I
on
can use, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To warm some water in the microwave. I keep forgetting. I always want to.
Well, so was I guess
You
I
yeah,
got to heating water. I guess it was something.
we gotta get hot water.
We almost got to the west.
Almost.
It was very close. But they didn't really want to do that. Obviously.
Yeah.
Gotta go by the majority, right?
Sure do.
So how's it been? They already finished? No more painting?
Well, yeah, no, actually, I do have to go back and paint some stuff, but we just got all the cabinets
Oh,
finally up.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're not, the detail isn't done, but like they have to be like caulked and like there's little things,
Oh, I know.
but
We did our kitchen.
they're up.
My daughter did our kitchen.
You think this would melt if I warm water and
Highly probable.
I get intoxicated with the
Exactly, the styrofoam junk in your water.
No,
Not
but
good.
it may happen
I'm
like
the
a few
worst.
minutes. Like a 2 minutes will be fine, I guess.
ramen
No,
noodles
Liv.
come in these.
I
They
do it
don't
all the
melt.
time.
You're-
Yes, try 2
Would I
minutes.
have to replace the microwave? It's like cost an accident.
No, come on.
No.
We used to not
Say
have.
it now, yes.
We used to not have a microwave here for the longest, and all of a sudden we got one.
I thought it was central.
Come on, Nisa, everyone's back already.
Try
Yalla.
Sort of, kind of.
Hopefully, like this.
Oh, Mr. Jose.
I thought you guys were getting soup.
Soup?
We're hoping you guys were getting soup.
Yeah,
It's cold out. If anyone needs anything special, let me know. And next week I'll try to bring it. Like tea or coffee or hot chocolate or sweet.
And bring our own stuff.
There's some tea in there, so let me know what kind you require.
Well, you know what we really need, which it might be outside of your request, because you're asking for small things, but maybe, like, I don't know if you're into this, like, what do they call them, swap meets or like something like this. We need a hot water can. Like, hot water one. Yeah, I don't know if one of you guys have it, like, in your garage, that you're not using it or something.
There's something we can put in the
You have a
microwave
hot plate here?
to make
No, hot water. It's like, it's an electric kettle.
Yeah, you can get them at Target or
Yeah,
wherever.
but don't go buy something. I'm asking if you have it like in your closet, or if you're like at a garage sale and for $5 the thing still works. You know? Because like now she's trying to heat up for tea and she's putting in a styrofoam cup in the microwave. It's like a whole thing. But this is, you know what this is?
I think I understand.
So-
Electric
Electric kettle. Electric exactly. Like you just you put it there, you put water in it, you press the button, and it boils. And
like
it
a
just,
carafe that's electric or something.
yeah. So look, guys, I'm telling you, if one of you happen to see it somewhere, all right, but don't go out now and like.
I'll check it at the food bank and see if it's
Mhm.
donations.
Okay, so I played.
It's not.
I played the video prematurely before because I wanted the other one because I messed up the order of them. So we're going to watch this video, then it's the first workshop question. And we're going to try to do this in the lessons going forward. We're going to do like Rav and workshop question, okay? So now we're talking about man's nature, all right? So remember we were going to talk about upper world stuff. Now we're going to talk about this world. So man's nature. And this is how the workshops are going to be centered around this week.
You talked about that we need to take with patience all kinds of forms of revelation of the will to receive. Does it mean only inside the group or also towards everything I see in life, in the world, that doesn't necessarily have to do with the people that are learning here and are efforting, and therefore I need to forgive them? A person who understands that all of creation is a will to receive, and there is nothing to do other than to bring over this will to receive more advanced forms, meaning closer to the light, to the Creator. He never, I don't know how to say it, he never gets mad, he never behaves or resists to the forms that he sees. He accepts it as a condition which is given to him for the work. Yes. Despite the fact that it's not pleasant, it's not nice, you also have such situations in which one who comes to kill you, well, that's clear. But actually, our attitude must be towards everyone that that's the phenomena of the general will to receive. That's how 7 billion people behave between them, and in such a manner are presented before me by the upper force. Who is the director?
So then we read the excerpt also about the thought that a person only thinks about what he wants and not what he does not want. Okay, so now the question: do you agree that a person thinks about what he wants, desires, and not on what he does not want or desires? Share some examples with each other about this principle.
Do we have to start with anybody specific, or?
This is a workshop. You guys, eventually you'll see, you will manage it. I'll only come in if I see that you guys are breaking the rules. So
I think in general, people only think about what they want unless they specifically have the intention of thinking about what they don't want.
I think we should not think about what we don't want, but we have this very bad habit of thinking more about what we don't want.
But how do we know that it is better for us what we want or what we don't want?
Yes, that's the crux of the matter. What should we do and what shouldn't we do? But of course, I believe that when you think about negative things, that's what you attract into your life. So it's best to be positive and think positive thoughts. And I do that. Well, I've done that most of my life. Occasionally doubts come in. I don't say that I never have doubts, because that would be lying. Of course I have doubts, and I question things, or I wouldn't be sitting here. Obviously, we've all gone through that cycle, or we wouldn't be here together. We're trying to improve ourselves as well as rise up on a higher level. We all want to know who the Creator is and how can we relate to Him. And hopefully with Kabbalah, we're going to do that. That's my goal. You know, I assume it's everybody's goal that's sitting here, or else you wouldn't be sitting here. I'm thinking that if we can hold on to the intention to bestow rather than receive, we would be thinking about the desire to bestow, and we would think less about receiving,
which can bring about pain.
Yeah, I agree that a person thinks mostly what they want. I guess mostly because what you said, they don't want to think about things that bring them pain, because even the thought kind of brings emotions of that sort. So, but it might also help to think about things that you don't want. Just like personally, I would think, oh, what's the worst thing that can happen? And then you think about something that you don't want. And it sort of helps sometimes in some situations to know the pros and cons. Those cons are things that you don't want. Sometimes you want to weigh those things to make a good decision.
Well, exactly, taking from your point, I mean, I'm not sure if you're talking about on a spiritual level what you want, your desires, then, I think most of them do think on, there's some people that are raised in fire and brimstone and think, I don't want to go to hell, as opposed to I want to go to heaven. But I think on a practical level, sometimes you have to be very clear about what you don't want in order to be clearer about what you do want. So I don't think you can just think about what you want on a practical level.
Yeah.
Are we changing the question? I agree with Karen about the only way that we have to know sometimes about what we want would be just differentiating and, identifying what we don't want. But I do know that it's a very bad habit about thinking about what you don't want, because it's I believe that's gonna come to your life if you put too much focus. So the idea would be what that phrase is telling us. Only think about what you want. But can we really, while we're in this stage?
Yeah, we always think like changing our minds, because if we check back in our life, we change these desires and we change these wants. And sometimes maybe what I don't want, maybe it was an alternative to something else. But we always move from one desire to another desire. And then we're trying to purify in a way those desires to making to approaching this the Kabbalah. And we have, like you mentioned, some doubts, but we don't want to get trapped in those doubts. I want to get away and continue in understanding a Creator.
Yeah. We always want peace and harmony around us. But the only way we can achieve that is if everybody agrees to be peaceful and harmonious. I mean, when we come up against people who are very negative, I mean, you can't fight with every single person who disagrees with what we want, because then we'll never accomplish what we want. So we have to think before we speak, and we have to observe the same rules that apply to the round table to the rest of the world, because otherwise there's no harmony and there's no accomplishment. We can't get anywhere, then we just keep spinning our wheels. And I don't want to spin my wheels forever, I don't have as much time as you or I want to get an answer. I want to achieve something while I'm still here on this earth. I mean, I know I've been reincarnated. I know about reincarnation, and I know I'll have to come back and repeat this if I don't do it this lifetime. But I like to do it this lifetime. Thank you very much.
So we are feeling creatures, right? In the sense that we have desires. The only thing that was created was a desire. But then if I have a desire for something, then the mind kicks in and it helps me to fulfill that desire. So the mind is used as a tool in order to accomplish and to get what my desire is. The issue that we have is that we look at each other with the mind and we measure each other to our mind and not our feelings. And so the truth is that the mind only necessitates or only fulfills the desire that it exists. There really is no mind in that sense. It's only used as a tool to fulfill your desire. And so as a result of that, what do we desire? What do we want? What are we looking for? What is our sole desire that we want to attain? And then the mind kicks in and it begins to calculate. And it's a tool to help us to fulfill that desire and how we can get it. And ultimately what we create then is a new mind, a spiritual mind that doesn't just rely on, that doesn't just use this brain logically to calculate things and measure it against things. No, once you have a good desire, now we can use it and see that we acquire the spiritual mind that understands how this whole system works. And then now it can properly fulfill the desires. I want this, don't worry, you will get it. This world is very reactionary in the sense of, I want something, you'll get it soon, okay? If not, your mind will naturally find a way to acquire it, okay? If you really desire something. Very simple. But we acquire the spiritual mind that then begins to help us above the desires of this world with a good desire for spirituality. And this is the thing that assists us in the climbing of the ladder itself, is the acquisition of the understanding that the mind necessitates the desire. So what's the desire? It's not in the understanding, it's not in the mind, that if I lock it all in here, I'm going to be good. No, it's what is my desire? That's the thing, that's the only thing that was created, a desire to receive. So what's your desire? Okay, that's how this whole system is built, the whole upper world, a desire. Okay, it's not the thought, it's not the mind, it's not the understanding, it's the feeling. Okay, all right, let's do another clip here from our teacher, and we'll do the second question.
Gil from Tel Aviv is asking, what is the meaning that there's no spirit of life in the mind? The mind is like a calculator. It's a calculator. No more than that. It only calculates for you all sorts of parameters as each of them has a certain weight of importance, and it brings to an emotion, and therefore there's nothing you can do about it. I have important things and some and other degrees of importance, meaning their weight is like this on one hand and on the other hand, and then this calculator does a calculation. It's truly like numbers, no more than that. The mind works only according to zeros and ones. That's it.
So now let's keep reading. Let's read the next paragraph. Where do we move on?
Oh, no, hang on. No, wait. It's on.
It's in Shamati. It's the other article. The one thought is this. So let's keep reading. That's not this one. The article continues, and it says, however, there's a special role to the thought. It intensifies the desire. The desire remains in its place. It does not have the strength to expand and perform its action. Yet because one thinks and contemplates on a matter, and the desire asks of the thought to provide some counsel and advice to carry out the desire thus grows, expands, and performs its actual work. So the following question is, how can I control my thoughts and desires?
That's tough. How can I fight with that all the time. Thoughts come into your mind. Sometimes they're unwanted. You have to beat them down. If I had the answer to that, I'd be in a better place. So I have to say, I don't know about that. My desires, I control them because I know some things are unattainable, but I make desires, so there's no point wasting time on it. I just look for the practical things that I can't achieve, basically. Or go one step above to keep myself growing and trying.
Well, I don't know if since apparently we don't have free will, I guess we can just sort of focus on, because I guess those thoughts and desires are kind of forces acting upon us, and we can just try to focus on the ones that we want. And like you said, it's not really easy to do, but with practice and a lot of dedication, it's all possible.
Well, I think this is the question in every practice, every religion, through, some say through meditation, some say through prayer, some say through breathing, Valium, EFT. I mean, it's that's the main thing that I see everywhere in everything. So there's many different ways, I guess, depending on how you're programmed, as to how you reprogram, how you are most easily reprogrammed. But it does take whatever way. For me, it's been a long search, a lot of practice and a lot of discovery, and it's better. But will I ever be able to control? Not unless I'm reprogrammed to be different. I don't think I will ever completely control.
I think for me, they said, it's probably one of the most fundamental questions that we think of. For me, the best way to try to control my thoughts and my desires is to kind of try to figure out and accept the things that I can't control. And after that, the only thing I have left to really defend myself, I guess, would be my intention and my environment. I have the power to choose selected intention, and I also have the power to a certain extent, choose the environment that I want to be in, to know, what things I allow to influence. So even though I don't have complete control of my environment, I can try my best to put myself in something that kind of synchronizes with my intention. Like coming over here to this class, I want to learn Kabbalah, so I come to a Kabbalah class. That's the best I got.
I agree with Mateo. Environment, I also think that discipline and definitely the acquisition of knowledge. The more knowledge you have, the more you realize that the fear that you had is futile. It doesn't really exist. But it takes a lot of practice and discipline, I think.
Well, I agree that it takes a lot of practice. But I feel also that in nature we have the desire of the seed. It's just in our nature, so we cannot put it away. But if I do it in the right way, if I do it in the direction, then the desire would be more would be better. And the problem with the thought is because we're living right now in this egoistic way, so it's actually our evil. You know, it's our enemy. But when we getting into this love, then our thought would be our best friend. You know, like Jesus Christ would be that, like supporting us in this whole mission about not myself but everybody else.
Yeah, that's difficult. I think we have to keep an open mind, and I think that we have to keep our intention clear, because otherwise, why are we sitting here? If we're not going to keep our intentions, we're not going to attain that goal. So we have to keep our minds open and just go with the flow, you know. That's why we have a workshop. Go with the flow and try to keep intention and keep our thoughts open.
Let's read. It turns out that the thought serves the desire, and the desire is the self of the person. Now there's a great self or a small self. A great self dominates the small selves. He who is a small self and has no dominion whatsoever, the advice to magnify the self is through the persisting with the thought of the desire, since the thought grows to the extent that one thinks of it. And so, in his law doth he meditate day and night, for by persisting in it, it grows into a great self until it becomes the actual ruler. How can we develop thoughts that would advance the desire towards spirituality? How can we attain that which we desire?
We can attain that which we desire by thinking on it and desiring it and letting that desire grow. And focusing our thoughts on why we desire it, and if we can, how we desire it to bring it about.
Yeah, I agree. I kept thinking about something that the teacher said, that the mind was like a calculator, that it worked with zeros and ones, and since I'm a computer scientist, it's hard for me to think about what is called as the simulation theory, and how basically everything, all that we see is a simulation, and we are kind of goes along with the same train of thought that there's no really free will because we're already programmed. And I think one has talked before about how creators kind of the programmer, and like this is all a machine. So it's, but in that same stream of consciousness, it's like the only way to advance is the same way that computers work. Like a computer it's cool and all, but the magic comes when it's something we call distributed computing, which is sort of this you bring all these servers or computers together. There's this peer-to-peer protocol. Obviously, I don't want to get technical in that stuff because I really don't understand it, but yeah, so like when we bring things or machines or computers or people together, I don't want to call ourselves machines, but it's hard for me not to think about that.
But we are machines. I think an old IBM, big, huge machine, and not a tiny little chip anymore. And so, yes, I think exactly what you said. You know, when we say connection, the pure thing, the distribution, it's the same idea. But then what we have to ask ourselves is, okay, are we a computer that can only do what's been program us, or we are like AI, where we actually can take that program and start developing past it and into our own. And that's the big question. That's been the big question for me for years and years. Is this just, I'm only going to get to a certain level because that's all the programming I have in me, or am I able to take my own programming and develop it? Yeah. And I don't even know if that has anything to do with the question, but your turn.
I think that the way that we can develop thoughts that would advance the desire towards spirituality would be basically to have the intention to create the desire of the star, or to request that desire from the creator. And our ability to hold that intention, I think, is really what's going to help us develop that. That's definitely going to require discipline, a lot of other qualities that we're going to gain along the way. But I think the most important thing is just the ability to hold that intention.
I totally relate to Jose's answer when he says that he cannot help but compare what we've been studying with computer systems. I've always had this idea that we can only learn something when we have another object in our lives that we can compare it to. So I've been having this idea about, why is Cabrera now available to everybody, or this, amount of knowledge, and it's because I think that now we have something we created that we can relate that wisdom to. So now that we, quoting, develop computer science, we have something on our level that we can relate to the whole existence, and that is why we are now able to compute the idea of creation and other worlds. But going back to the question, I think that the only way we can attain that desire would be towards gratitude and acknowledging the fact that there's none else besides him.
That's a good moment to jump in. So, the greater the intensity of the thought, the greater the desire it develops. Okay? So this is the beauty of the wisdom of Kabbalah. It's a very special wisdom in the sense that it has these two kind of extremes. We talk about that we need to feel have a sensation of it. We need to sorry, hey Terry. We need to feel what's going on, but at the same time, one second. But at the same time, on the other hand, we have this upper system that we're discussing, very scientific, which talks about the Kalim, the 10 Sefirot, which is very technical, with all these diagrams and all these charts, which is all requires the mind. And so we have these two edges. We have all the emotional aspect, we tend to feel what's going on, and then we have the other aspect of it where you must understand, and you also have to learn what are these diagrams talking about. It's very technical, and it requires the mind. And so the Kabbalist lives in balance between these two places. He actually begins to utilize both forces within him, the mind and the heart, in a way that he can then be able to really feel and acquire this wisdom in a greater sensation, because he uses the mind as a tool to build the desire so that he can grow desire and want more discovery, and as a result, he uses it as a tool. He knows and understands what it wants. Of course, if the desire, if now the thought takes me somewhere else, well then, there's not a calibration between these two forces within a person. And so this is the beauty of the wisdom of Kabbalah, that it requires this sort of kind of balance between two. Because if a person is all logic, and he's just like super logical guy, and he has no emotion, can't be. But if he's all emotion and all feeling and everything, and he doesn't even no logic, also cannot be. So we have to have this beautiful balance between the two, and that's where the Kabbalist aims to be, in that middle line. Remember we talked about the middle line? So in that middle line between the both edges, so that he can be able to properly navigate everything and use these two forces. Because you'll see that also, where do these desires come from? Who's giving them to me? Yes, Creator. Also, he's trying to knock you off the way. So now all of a sudden he takes you to something else. But you need the mind to say, hang on, what is the right desire? Okay, I want this desire. Okay, this is my desire. All right, now intensify that one. And what happens is that you begin to use the mind as a way to measure the new discovery of the soul that's inside of you, and you help to begin to aim it, to divide your desires, to divert them, to move, and you use the mind in a way to modify the desire and to work with the desire for your maximal gain. And then you begin to utilize these two forces inside of you so that you can actually navigate and what do I want now? But I want this. And then the mind comes in, is this really what you want? Come over here. And then it's like, but this, and then you divide it. I'm telling you, you can be a master. This is the Kabbalist of working with the internal forces that are inside of you, of thought and mind, these two, the right to the left, using these two forces, okay, in order to properly aim yourself at what you want and to attain that thing that you're looking to acquire. Because if there's no desire, then you won't want this thing. But also, if there's no fulfillment from the mind and understanding that this is why you want it, then you won't pursue it either. So you have to be a master at working with these two internal forces inside of you. And that will come. So let's watch a clip, and then we'll do the last recap question.
From the United States, they're asking to know, what is the right thought about the society? Can you help me express it? There's no society. It's all the parts of my soul. They are those cells which I need to gather to me in order for me to have, in the connection with them, feel the Creator, feel the spiritual world, the upper world, the true reality. I am now in the imagination which is shattered. It appears to me like there is outside of me something that exists. I need to connect all of reality within through the reforming light, so much so that I won't feel this reality as being scattered, shattered, but rather that it is one. Look at how the world itself now is progressing towards that. It's also obligating us to enter into such a vision, such a sight, and also on behalf of science, which is revealing things to us that the whole universe is basically one thing, and also on behalf of our life, our small life, where whether we'd like to or not, we see there's no choice. We're all connected to each other through 4 people all over the world. We're dependent on each other. You can see the Europeans can't even divide. They're afraid. They see what could be. It could be an explosion, an immense explosion. You see how they're searching for ways to be nevertheless connected. The world constantly is pushing us. It's the plan of creation. It obligates us more and more towards connection. So let's go for it and see that eventually it's all one system. The moment you start seeing it as one, you discover the one, and that's it. Inside there, only unity operates, and that's how we come to the sensation of the Creator. Only we come to this through the reforming light, faster, by being drawn ahead. The others are doing it through a drive from behind, a push from behind.
So, last question, how did you feel? How did you feel during the class today? And what are you taking with you? So how did you feel during the class today? And what are you taking with you?
I feel kind of enjoying, like a little child trying to discover something. And I take away that the sense that we want to see what is the reality, because something has hiding from us. So we want to know what is reality in all of us.
We all have a common goal. We all have to discover how each of us thinks about that and how we can keep that intention going. So it all goes back to the intention again. What is the purpose of our being here? And where do we want to go? And with that, hopefully, each one will feel that and will be able to accomplish that. Just like we accomplished getting into the second semester all together, because we all have an equal desire to go there. I think that's what I feel.
Well, today I'm thinking that my reality may not be the reality. And so I feel that I'm taking with me the fact that I have to open up a little more and be more observant and soften my approach.
To be honest, I kind of feel puzzled. There's just a lot of things that I don't understand, even from you just talking. I just don't like something else. I don't understand. But even more than that, I'm not really sure how learning all this is really fitting to my perception of reality. So yeah, I don't expect me to understand it all, but at the same time, maybe I'm more puzzled than I wish I was.
Well, to use your words, to be completely honest, you really want me to be completely honest? I feel preached to today. I feel more like it was a lesson that was preached. It's what I'm going to take away, just trying to be that I'm here for a reason, that I'll try to be more open. And I had to say that to myself a couple of times during the lesson. No disrespect.
I guess I feel to a certain extent of realignment. I definitely see who I meant by like if you go away for a couple of weeks, you start to kind of like lose a little bit. I'm not sure what the world would even be. Maybe it's a desire, but I'm coming here. I feel more focused. Like I know kind of more what I want to look for, so to speak.
I feel that my week is complete. The week is complete. Like this is cherry.
Oh, you already went, didn't you? Good. Question: does everyone have a smartphone?
Yes.
You don't have one. Okay. Does everyone have WhatsApp?
Yes.
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 WhatsApp. It's an app. Okay. All right. So you're going to go to your. You have a Android, right?
No, I have my phone.
Okay. Either way, it'll work. You're going to download this app called WhatsApp. download that. WhatsApp. Okay. And then it's going to register your phone number attached to your profile there. And I have all of your phone numbers. I'm going to make a WhatsApp group. Okay. We're in stage 2 now. Now we can start interacting with each other outside of class. Okay. And the same rules of the round table apply within this WhatsApp group. Everything we've discussed up until now also goes into the guidelines on how to interact with each other in the WhatsApp group. And so the homeworks will now be placed in this group. And they will be done sometimes in forms of discussions or sometimes reminders, but it's a quick way for us to talk to each other. Because some of you are getting emails, some of you are not getting emails, some of you are getting phone calls, some of you are getting text messages, some of you are also I'm communicating with you through Meetup. Okay, so guys, let's bring it all into one because for my sake as well. So WhatsApp, all right, one place, one conversation. Okay, and feel free to share any materials if you want to inspire your friends or something that are from B'nai Baruch. Okay, any other materials from other sources, other organizations, please don't share them. You can do that outside in another place. Yeah.
I just have one question. Is there like any movies or any visual film that kind of, I think you said one is called The Kabbalist. I don't know if
It's a book. It's a book and it's amazing. I'm going to start sharing things with you guys too, okay? Because I have access to a lot of cool things. And so I'm going to start throwing a little video in there for you, doing this. We got to get you a smartphone, Missy. So let's see. So you don't miss the conversation. Because unfortunately, you can't, unless you don't have the app on your phone. There's a way to do desktop version, but you have to have the phone. It pings the phone. So we can't do it through there. But we'll figure it out. Don't worry. You're with us. So we'll throw your picture in there or something. All right, speaking of pictures, we need to put a logo on our new WhatsApp group. So can we take a picture and use that picture of all our smiling faces on the WhatsApp group? I'm not going to take pictures of all of you. It'll be far away. But like this, I'll just go do a nice selfie for all of us, and that'll be our avatar for the group, okay? So like this. Hang on. Lean up a little, Sheila, for me. So my arms like that. Like, all right, you two, get in there. All right, and smile. All right, beautiful. So that will be our avatar for the group. Okay, and so yeah, so I will post. I'm going to create the group tonight. I'm going to post the assignment there, and that's where you get all of your information, and that's where we will communicate and discuss. You're going to get cool videos from me, and we will keep connected. Okay.
By the way, they have excellent videos on the Kabbalah info. It's amazing how much resources you have in us.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna. Hey guys, here's a cool resource, Cab TV. Cab.info, go to it, click it, it's cool stuff. I'm going to do that for you guys, okay?
Sure, like makes sense.
That's nice. Also, friends, if you haven't registered, I don't know who has or who hasn't. I haven't seen any lists or anything, so I'm just throwing it out there.
I haven't been able to.
No, don't worry. I'll just, if you haven't, do it. If you're going to do whatever, however you're going to do it, register, please. We have to close all these matters always by the third lesson, so please do it.
No wonder you can't get your kitchen done.
So my wife was like, today, she so what time are you going to get there? Like, or are we going to be there? So I was like, well, kind of it's still 5:30. And then at 6, I have the branch meeting with all the other managers. And then tonight,
Here?
no, virtual. And then tonight at 11, I have the other one.
Some of that. What? This is really funny.